Mercedes Textiles Limited is a world leader in the innovation and the manufacture of fire hose, fire pumps, and associated fire line accessories. This instructional video demonstrates the various steps in properly setting up and operating our Wick100 ultra-lightweight, all-position, high-pressure fire pump. So now, let's get started with understanding some of the basics of proper setup and starting the pump. The first step should be selecting a suitable water source. This can be a forest stream, a pond or lake, or even a backyard swimming pool. Important factors to consider include sufficient water supply, depth, and whether or not the bottom contains sand, mud, or small stones that could damage the pump end. Also ensure the pump is kept away from dry grass or brush and that the pump is on a fairly level base. Should you be using a dock or wooden platform, the pump may need to be secured so as not to move due to vibration. When operating from the pump's internal fuel tank, we need to ensure there is a sufficient quantity of fuel. A full tank will run approximately 40 minutes at 90% full throttle. Since this is a two-stroke engine, the gas and oil are mixed. We recommend a 24:1 ratio. Use a high-quality two-stroke oil meeting class TCW3 and use premium unleaded gasoline for best performance. Before pouring in the fuel, always ensure the gas and oil are well mixed. The intake connection to the pump consists of a foot valve and suction hose. The foot valve is equipped with a screen to keep out stones and other debris, plus a check valve that will prevent water from draining out of the hose line. They should be inspected to ensure there is no foreign debris, that the foot valve O-ring is correctly seated, and that the check valve is functioning. The foot valve is then connected to the suction hose, and since it will be entirely below the surface of the water, this connection only needs to be hand tight. The foot valve must be completely submerged and at least 6 inches or 15 centimeters below the surface to avoid a vortex effect that would allow air to enter the intake. In the case of a muddy or sandy bottom, the foot valve must be suspended at least 6 inches or 15 centimeters from the bottom. You can adapt with whatever you have at hand, such as submerging a toolbox, tying the foot valve to a stake, using an empty plastic container to elevate it, or as demonstrated here. The pump end threads should be protected to avoid damage to the pump end, which would result in an expensive repair. Therefore, both the intake and discharge connections should be equipped with a thread protector or an adapter. The connection to the intake must be airtight, and a hose wrench is an important tool to ensure a proper connection. Next, since this is a centrifugal pump, we must fill the pump end with water, in other words, prime the pump end. And to do this, we're using a hand primer. Once the pump end is primed, we connect the discharge hose, and the pump setup is now complete. The Wick100 has an optional remote fuel connection for extended runtime. To set up this connection, we first open the air vent on the remote fuel tank. Note that the remote fuel tank should be at level, or preferably at a slightly higher elevation than the pump. The remote fuel line then needs to be primed. We can use a male fitting or other tool in order to create an opening and then squeeze the priming valve until a small amount of fuel flows out of the line. Here we're extracting the fuel directly into the pump's fuel tank to avoid any spillage. Remove the pump's fuel connection dust cover and connect this fitting to the remote fuel line. Then close the integral fuel tank valve, ensuring that it is tightly closed. The pump's integral fuel tank cap should be loose to allow air to escape during final priming. Depress the pump's priming valve until all air bubbles disappear from the clear plastic fuel line. Finally, tighten the pump's integral fuel cap. Now it's time to start the pump, so let's take a look at the various steps to get the engine started and pumping water into the hose line. We first turn the on-off switch to on. Set the throttle to the start position or about a quarter open. Depress the fuel primer until it is approximately half full with fuel and increased resistance is felt. For a cold engine start, the choke must be set to closed or start position. This pump is equipped with a decompression switch for easy start. So next, depress the blue decompression switch. To start the engine, take a firm grip on the recoil, position the dogs, and give a quick pull. Once the engine starts, or when you hear the first ignition fire, set the choke to the open or run position. With the engine now running, set the throttle to the idle position for at least a minute to allow the engine to warm up. After a warm-up period, increase the engine speed, at which point the clutch will engage and start pumping water. When you are ready to shut down the pump, an idle period of at least a minute is important to allow the engine to cool down. After the engine has been allowed to cool down, turn the on-off switch to the off position. When disconnecting the discharge hose, it is important to prevent water from splashing on the hot engine. Therefore, it may be necessary to restrict the back pressure by either clamping the hose with a hose strangler or kinking the hose before disconnecting. To disconnect the suction hose, use the hose wrench to loosen the connection, then carefully unscrew until the suction hose can be removed. Empty the water from the pump by alternately tilting the intake and discharge ends while keeping the hot muffler well away from you. Finally, empty the water from the suction hose as shown here, and also ensure any debris is completely removed from the hose and foot valve. To check out a complete features and benefits video of this pump along with some of our other pumps, go to our website at mercedestextiles.com and click Product Videos found on the website main menu. We have a worldwide network of distributors, and to find the distributor nearest you, click on our website Contact Us box and we'll put you in touch with a qualified dealer or representative.